Allez.
Dear colleagues, thank you for coming. We are on the 24th of March. It's Sunday. I'm quiet, minding my own business, and I receive a phone call from my friend Guillaume Cossa. Why not? I always get a phone call from Guillaume Cossa. Always interesting, talking about Europe or politics, science, whatever. Tells me, Thierry, why don't we organize? And at this point, I should have stopped. Why don't we organize a colloquium about, in order to convince the Commission to fund European research? And I say yes, we should, because I was convinced we should. But frankly, I didn't think we would make it in such a short time. But thanks to the energy and the incredible network of Jean-Pierre Vidal, thanks to Vivek Badrinath, and again his energy and his network, thanks to the help of EuropaNova, of JEDI and André Scout-Petri, thanks to Thibaut Duchesne, who organized everything, we could gather an outstanding panel, an outstanding audience. We are few, as the Italians say, pochi ma buoni, and I do think this symposium was extremely timely. At the time, we did not know how timely it would be. Okay, why is the Institut Polytechnique de Paris interested in the matter? As you know, we are a merger of 5 prestigious engineering schools, French engineering schools, and we have a mission to build a world-class Institute of Science and Technology. We can only make it if we work at the European level. We have the privilege to be members of an alliance called Eurotech. Anna Foncuberta from EPFL is here. We hope we would have Robert Jan Smith, but the Dutch universities have a slight problem with funding cuts in our government, but Robert Jan was very enthusiastic about coming. We hoped we would have our colleague Joris Ivan from Technologie. I mean, by the way, what are our benchmarks? Our benchmarks are EPFL, ETH, Caltech, Technologie, MIT, and it's a privilege to work with some of your benchmarks in the same network. So that's one point. For our institution, working at the European level is key. Second, I must say that I must confess that I have a, personal, professional interest in the matter, because throughout my long career now, as a member of the staff of Valérie Pécresse, and that's where I met Minister Manuel Heitor, as the president of universities, I can put a plural, as a former member of the General Secretariat for Investment, funding machine who helped to build the Plateau de Saclay and other alliances, and as an advisor to the presidency of the French Republic. I've seen firsthand the transformative power of research and innovation, and at the European level. And I must say that I was, and too many French academics are ignorant of the European mechanisms and of the interest of acting at this level. And I was taught by Jean-Pierre. Jean-Pierre was the one who I'm not a very gifted student, but I tried to study European mechanisms, and I do understand now how crucial these mechanisms are for developing French research and innovation. So now we made it, at least we organize it. We have, together with EuropaNova and JEDI, we have brought together some of the most distinguished minds in the field. As I said, it's extremely timely because of the forthcoming work of the Commission. Now is the time to convince the Commission to invest, but it's even more timely because of the political European situation, and even more because of the anxiety that we do have as French people, and I'm sure that our friends from other European countries share this anxiety about the next few weeks. Anyway, let us seize this opportunity to reinforce our commitment to research and technology and to pave the way for, as much as we can, for a reindustrialized Europe that stands at the forefront of global innovation and growth. Thank you very much. Guillaume, your call.
Thank you, folks. Thierry, thank you very much for welcoming us at Institut Polytechnique, which is part of the collective imagination of France and Europe in terms of innovation and breakthrough. And very happy to co-open this high-level symposium with you and with Jean-Pierre, who is a reference for many of us. Well, we do this symposium because we are worried. As a European citizen, I'm worried. As a former special advisor on artificial intelligence of President Juncker and Vice President Ansip, I'm worried. As a tech entrepreneur, I'm worried. As a think tanker, head of EuropaNova and Conclave, I'm worried. I'm worried because there is a beginning, strong, increasing downward shift with regard to the US and China in terms of geopolitics, science, innovation, and industry. And we are at the early beginning of this shift, but the next 5 years, this small gap can be huge. And what I know, having been in China and in the US 12 years ago, is at the time we were the reference, and now we remain a source of inspiration, but one among many others. And they have decided 10 years ago, 15 years ago, to put science and tech at the heart of their priority. It is not the case in Europe, not at all. And I'm not sure we are understanding how major this priority is key, because this is the condition for increasing our growth capacity. This is the condition for being able to produce well-paid jobs. This is the condition for having an added value reindustrialization and no low value reindustrialization as we are doing the last 10 years. This is the condition for survival. So we need to react and we need to plan our future. 6 months ago, we had a conclave under the leadership of Prime Minister Costa in Portugal. And the conclusion of this conclave is if Europe, the EU, want to survive, and there are some people who were there, we need to transform the EU into a power. Not the one as the US or China, but a global, sustainable, responsible power. And it's now, not in 5 years, because in 5 years it's too late, because both the US and China are in a period of acceleration. Acceleration has been the key word for the last 4 years, and we are not in a period of acceleration. We were good in resolving big crises, very good, but not to accelerate. So now we need to put the stress on tech, science, innovation, and acceleration. In the conclave report, and Jean-Pierre is going to speak about. There are 4 priorities which are very clear. First of all, we need to assess the geopolitical leadership of EU, because geopolitics is creating the conditions for competitiveness in this new world. Second, we need renew our leadership in terms of science and technology. Third, we need to develop a capacity to produce common goods at European level, the one that member states are not able to develop by themselves, in terms of security, defense, climate, energy, education, culture, media, health, etc. And last, we need to invent the next step of democracy, and this step needs to be based upon a transnational, multilingual European public space in order to engage citizens, because we want to be engaged, but they are not able to be. And for that, always research, tech, and science are key, because they are the condition for us to be able to reinvent. And now I just would like to say a word as a tech entrepreneur. I am chairman of T-Life, which is co-developed with partner in Institut Polytechnique, Télécom Sud Paris. And my thinking, my experience is, if we want to be leader again, we need to be able to connect research, fundamental research and applied research, with market. And we need to develop a continuum. But we need the European market. And this European market does not exist for startups. We have 27 markets. And with that, we can't compete. If we don't have a real European market by the next 3 years, we will be out of the game. Really out of the game, because no startup can plan itself at the European level. It's too complex. This is good only for American companies, because they have the resource. It's not possible for European companies, because they have not the resource. Second of all, we need a culture of risk, but it's not only a matter of money. Money is important, and we need a union of savings and investment. But it's only 5% of what we need. We need a capacity to take risk in investing. I mean, if I look at American hospitals or the American Army, they are capable of putting millions of dollars, dozens of millions of dollars, even billion on new projects to create the market. We are not able. So they want to lead, and with China, they have an objective, which is their competition between themselves. And we are taken between the two. So if we only think into doing the market, which is essential, and funding is not enough. We need to develop a capacity of public and private procurement at European level as early as possible. Otherwise, we will never compete, and we will go on being a supplier of talent and a supplier of new venture, new startup for the US, China, and tomorrow India. And this is not possible anymore. So that's the objective of this symposium, to discuss that and to make recommendations, not only for the European Commission, but for the European Council. We have the opportunity to have Jean-Pierre Vidal, who is the senior advisor to Président Michel, and the European Council is going to adopt by June 27-28 the strategic agenda of the EU. And this strategic agenda defines the political priority of the next institution: Parliament, Commission, and Council. So our first step and our first priority is to contribute to this agenda. So our discussions are very important for that. And I wish us a very good discussion, a very good debate. And I hope it will inspire both Manuel and Jean-Pierre, who are there and who are preparing the next European step. Thank you very much. And thank you also to Isabelle and Thibault and the team who prepare this day.
good afternoon, everyone. So thank you very much for being here. If you allow me, I will focus on the few words I will say, which of course will be based on the report of the conclave, but with some mention of people. First of all, when you enter the room, you may not have noticed that this amphitheater bears the name of the first woman who was professor physics at École Polytechnique, Mrs. Herman. She was my colleague since I taught in École Polytechnique for 26 years. But she was also very, very active at the European level to promote women. And she was the president of the Women Organization of Scientists. So that was my first comment on people. My second comment is, of course, that the conclave has identified, in particular in the domain of research and technology, which is the one on which we focus today, really identified a number of possible priorities. That is, domains in which it will be critical for Europe to exist and to develop its capacity in the right way. And you already heard from Guillaume a number of conditions for Europe to be in a good position to be up to the challenges set by typically the United States and China. But one thing which is very, very important is to make it possible for people to actually do that. And I was very pleased with Manuel Heitor not so long ago to have a conference which was focused on the career of young researchers, because this is, I think, one of the absolute key things for the future. And actually, I was even reinforced in this feeling because last Saturday I attended the picnic of Fondation Sciences Mathématiques de Paris. I'm chairing the board, and I talked to a number of young people there. And actually, very bright young people, mostly outside France, who are interested in mathematics, and they came to Paris to do mathematics at high level. But when I spoke to them and asked them what they want to do later, most of them said, well, I don't think I can stay in academia. It's just impossible. Too complicated, too bad. The beginning of career is too bad. And of course, they will be well trained, they will get jobs, because if you are trained as a mathematician today, you get easily a job. But I think we have to be very careful that we need to really create conditions for younger people to feel comfortable that there is a possibility for them. It's up to them to decide, of course. So in this challenge for the future, and this is one thing which is also very explicitly developed and will be later developed by Agnieszka, which is this need to really make it very clear that there is really the possibility to have some kind of continuity and between the academic work and the industrial work. So that's why we made a big effort to get a number of people from industry, but unfortunately, a number of them actually at the last minute disappeared from our program, and I'm a bit disappointed about that. It was no bad intention, because they have other obligations which can happen when you have responsibilities in industry. But nevertheless, showing how important it is to develop this continuum is one of the very key elements to develop further at European level. And of course, in this context, European level is very critical, because depending on the size of your country, of course, countries like Germany and France, people may have the feeling that within the country that's enough. Of course, it's not true. But for smaller countries in size, this is actually not true, and people know it. So I hope we can really obtain that at the European level, at the level of the European Commission, this will be recognized as an absolute priority to create really for young people possibility of moving easily and having perspectives in terms of career. And then they choose between academia and others. That's not, I have no problem with that. It's just, I'm afraid that they all go one direction. It would be bad if they all go the other direction, but it's similar. That's my first one. My second point, which is also has to do with people in a way, is the later on. So I was talking a lot about young people, because I think at this moment this is really a very critical issue. But I think also later on, it's very important in the career of people. It's very, very important that the connection between the academic world and the industrial world be very strong. That people know each other, they talk to each other, they share their objectives, their challenges, their difficulties. And I must say, from this point of view, I'm a scientist, really I think we, as scientists, are not making enough effort to meet people from industry. It doesn't mean we agree to everything they propose. That's not the issue. The issue is to know what they need, to know what they are able to do, and we know what we're able to do, and to really come up with schemes which really make it possible to work together in an efficient way, and which will be good for both sides. So that's my second point that I want to make. That is the great importance to have really the connection between the academic world and the industrial world work better. Another dimension, which I personally experienced when I was in Brussels, is also the capacity of industrial people, in particular at the highest level, to talk at the political level that we as scientists usually have difficulties achieving. We were lucky we had Angela Merkel for some time as Chancellor, so we could talk, I could talk to her, but that was the exception. So, but I knew that the CEOs with whom I could discuss from the European Roundtable for Industry, for example, they could talk regularly, a number of prime minister or heads of state. So I think this alliance we need to build with the people of industry from the academic world is very important also if we want to achieve our goals. And we know at some stage it will involve convincing politicians that what we're discussing is not just defending our interests, but defending really a very global interest. So these were the words I want to say, focused on relations between people, and I hope we have a very successful meeting. I'm sure we will have a successful meeting. Thank you very much. So I just introduce Agnieszka. She's, well, you never know how you qualify you. You are really working in the intensive domain, which is both computer science, robotics, but also philosophy and ethics. So, thank you very much. So Agnieszka was participated in the conclave. She was really in charge of one of the wings of the topic on research and technology, and I'm very grateful to her that she agreed on making the first keynote in this afternoon, and based fundamentally on the conclusion of the report of the conclave. Agnieszka.
Thank you so much. It's a great pleasure and great honor to be here. Thank you for inviting me. And yes, it was also a great pleasure and honor to be participant of the conclave. I'm very, very happy to see familiar faces here today. Okay, so today I'll be talking about part of the conclave report that is related to research and technology and innovation. And maybe a few words. Doesn't move on. I'm sorry, I don't have my own computer. So I need to. It just does not move. Maybe I need to go like this. There you go. Sorry. All right. Sorry about this. So just a very, very short introduction to what I do. It's full screen here. All right, so I'll just very quickly introduce my work. So I'm a cognitive neuroscientist and philosopher by training, as Jean-Pierre mentions, and I work with human-robot interaction. So I'm actually interested in how our brain adapts to these kind of new entities, new social partners perhaps, such as human robots that you see here. So yes, I work at the intersection of artificial intelligence, robotics, and human cognitive neuroscience. I'm also an ERC grantee, and as already mentioned, participated in the conclave in November. So today I'll be talking about the challenges for European research, and I grouped this presentation in line with the report of the conclave to 4 themes. One is the continuum, as Jean-Pierre was already mentioning, between research and innovation. The second point is about developing a digital platform strategy to leverage our AI and quantum potential. And the 2 last points are about the green transition and healthcare. And I will, just to make it simpler, I use the words earth care and healthcare. And you'll see during my presentation how also we should think about those 2 big challenges for Europe and for the world. All right, so let's first start with the continuum. Let's set the scene first. Research and innovation is absolutely the fundament for competitiveness and innovation growth and citizens' well-being. The world's most successful economic powers have adopted, so to speak, continuum approach in such a way that there are mechanisms that promote a dialogue between academia and industry and promote this shift, this continuum a little bit better. In Europe, we have a more fragmented approach to innovation, and that is because different legal national systems and also still quite a separation between research, fundamental research and industry. And finally, last but not least, Europeans account for only 10% of global R&D, and that is a decline from past levels. Now, what do we need? So that was setting the scenes. Now, what do we need? Definitely increased R&D funding. We need reduction of bureaucratic burden on researchers and innovators and entrepreneurs, and I'll be talking about those points separately. And we need a single market for research, innovation, and education. So we need to complete our vision of the single market. So R&D expenditure. Europe should increase budget for R&D. And these are statistics that are a little bit refreshing, I must say. Probably many of you know these statistics and have seen them. So if you look at the share of the GDP, Europe is sort of pretty much at the average of the world, with North America and Eastern and Southeastern Asia really dedicating much more funds to R&D. This you probably can't see because it's a very small font, but I wanted to show you this anyway. So this is basically the same statistics, but in 2022 by country. So what you see here, the first 4 countries are Israel, South Korea, Taiwan, and United States. And here is Belgium. So what I marked here are some European countries that are okay, quite at the top, still not top. But unfortunately, there are also countries from Western Europe, such as Italy, for example, here, that are very low in these statistics in terms of dedicating funds for R&D. So we do need funds for R&D, and we have a beautiful example of how research can be funded in such a way that brings about innovative and disruptive ideas, and that's the European Research Council. So European Research Council is a success story, both in terms of science. So we can see here that there are 14 Nobel Prizes coming from ERC grants, 6 field medals, and many other prizes that would be impossible to list here. But also in terms of innovation. So 40% of ERC projects with results that have been cited by patents, and 400 ERC researchers founded startups. So there is a transition from fundamental research to innovation, And this is very, very important. One also very important point about the ERC is that it's not only the PIs who receive the ERC grants, but it's also their teams of young researchers. So there has been 100,000 young researchers employed in ERC grants. So it's investment for the future research. Now, why is this such a success story? Why the ERC? Well, first and foremost, because the ERC funds curiosity-driven, unconstrained bottom-up research. It allows researchers to explore new risky ideas without having any constraints. Excellence is the only criterion for evaluation of grants and grant proposals, and it's a high-risk, high-gain game. It gives a scientist freedom to explore the unexplored, but also to fail. And this is quite important to keep in mind, both in research and in innovation. Europe has a little bit of a cultural issue with being embarrassed to fail, and that's why also there's a bit of a risk aversion in Europe. So we need to promote the idea that one can take risks if they are visionary, and if failure means learning from failure. Now, speaking of successes, I also need to speak about challenges. So the ERC has funded 13,000 projects, but there are very many equally excellent so-called non-funded A's because of budget constraints. So ERC needs more budget, and fundamental research in general in Europe needs more budget. The estimate is that about twice as much as ERC has right now should be needed in order to fund all those excellent projects. So that is one way to fund, to support this transition from fundamental research to innovation and to allow for innovative ideas to happen at the European level. Second point, so first was R&D funding. Second point is bureaucratic burden on researchers and innovators. We should try to reduce bureaucratic burdens. And as I was preparing for this presentation, I was looking for statistics about bureaucratic burden. It's not easy to quantify the amount of bureaucratic burden. I can tell you from my own experience of my colleagues, that we all are really swamped, so to speak, and overloaded with bureaucratic burden. It's very hard sometimes to find time for research. Now, these are statistics from the Institute for Research on SMEs. And actually, this was a survey performed where the respondents were companies, and the company employees and managers, and the question was how much time, cost, and personal effort and energy it takes to implement bureaucratic requirements. What you see here is that time requirement and personal energy are really substantial chunk of what is required to deal with bureaucracy. And this is quite worrisome, because if it's about personal strength and energy, the end effect is losing motivation and frustration quite often. And here I'm talking about companies. Now here, this is an example, another example from science, where this is from scientific going from academia, and this is an article published, so you see the reference here, and you see headers such as growth of the burden of bureaucracy in clinical research and negative impact of the increased administrative burden, not only on investigators, but also research teams and patients. So we need to make sure that there's rigorous warranty in terms of quality of, for example, clinical trials and clinical practice. We need to make sure that everything is right in place, but we need to try to reduce the burden on researchers and innovators, as you have seen from the previous slide. The third point is single market to boost EU's potential for research and innovation. And we should complete the single market. So the single market framework, I'm sure you're all aware, is the free movement of people, goods, services, and capital. Now the fifth freedom is proposed to enhance research, innovation, and education. So free movement of research, innovation, and education. The picture is not yet complete. One would think that, well, everything is free within the EU and easy, but it's not. There are still a lot of bureaucratic, again, and regulatory barriers, not to mention legal barriers. So what do we need? We first and foremost need a strong European technological and digital infrastructure, and I'll be talking about that in my next point in a moment. We need to remove barriers in knowledge sharing and data access across countries. We need to have, again, produce critical mass in access to data and access to information in such a way that it's not country per country national borders, but actually at the European level, we can share our knowledge and share what we have already accumulated. We should encourage mobility of researchers and innovators. Again, here, there are still administrative constraints in hiring people across countries, in recognizing, for example, academic diplomas across countries. I know this from my own team, and in Italy, sometimes it's difficult to go through the administrative burdens. And then retaining talent, something that Jean-Pierre was already mentioning. It's absolutely critical that we somehow increase the attractiveness of academic environment to young people who are more and more ready to leave to industry. And that is very often because there are no clear career perspectives in science and academia. USA and China have their own digital platform strategy. Europe remains pretty much a second-run power in these areas. We use American platforms, and we are not independent in that case. So do we really want to remain only a referee in the digital game? Well, again, this battle is probably slightly lost at this point, but there are some good news. Europe has decided to fund the Quantum Technologies Flagship Initiative, and Europe is to have its first supercomputer with quantum acceleration by 2025. And that should be available to users anywhere in Europe. This is really, really good news. So we need to make sure that we prioritize these areas and that we, again, provide support enough funding. So developing European digital platforms is a priority. We need to incentivize entrepreneurship, again, simplify regulation. We need to scale up and we need to create critical mass. I'm talking again about pan-European approach that is not fragmented into the separate member states. We need an ambitious effort on AI and quantum, something that I was already mentioning, and EU should become the world's quantum valley. And then data accessibility, something I was already mentioning earlier, across the single market while maintaining rigor and security and governance rules and standards. Now, actually from 2020, where the clinicians in Italy have been asked what are the leading challenges that are faced by healthcare organizations in implementing digital technologies. And what you see, number one, bureaucracy again. Number two, training staff to use technology. So we need to increase literacy of our users in order to even think about having digital platforms that would be then absorbed by our societal structures. I think that's quite refreshing to see this. Okay, so what do we need in doing here? Again, going back to talents, we need best talents in the digital domain. Those are the most difficult to actually keep in academia right now because everybody goes to industry or outside Europe as well. And we need to make sure that Europe develops quick and efficient competence acquisition. And finally, something that is very close to my heart is we need support for researchers to use artificial intelligence to accelerate science. And here I would like to speak a little bit about this topic because I think it's very, very, very important, artificial intelligence in scientific progress. So there have been more and more publications coming out, and these are just two examples, one from the Royal Society and another one at MIT Technology Review, about how AI will transform the way science gets done. So let me quote very quickly Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, who, with this article here, I just wanted to read out, states the following. If we play our cards right, with sensible regulation and proper support for innovative uses of AI to address science's most pressing issues, AI can rewrite the scientific process. We can build a future where AI-powered tools will both save us from mindless and time-consuming are much better placed to talk about this, but this is a simulation for understanding the process of ammonia production. Ammonia is a key component for fertilizers, and fertilizers are extremely costly environmentally. So this is what you see here. The statistics are pretty dramatic for fertilizers. Now, if through simulations we can understand the process of generating ammonia, then we can perhaps, and that's the idea behind this research, do more energy efficient process so that we can help, again, help the planet. So this is just one example of very many examples about how artificial intelligence can again play a big role in science in order to address this challenge. The second point is healthcare. Well, Europe is doing quite well, high life expectancy due to universal health coverage and public health services. That's great, and I think we're all very happy to live in Europe due to the healthcare system that we have. However, the European health sector faces challenges from budget constraints to, again, bureaucratic inefficiency in hospitals. Another point that is quite critical as well is that clinical trials and pharmaceutical products in the EU, there are stricter regulations than in the US. The bureaucracy and the time it takes is, again, longer and slower. So, again, without jeopardizing the rigor of testing, we need to make sure that the bureaucracy is a little bit reduced and that the regulations do not impede progress in clinical trials. So what do we need? Again, significant funding for fundamental research. In this area, it's absolutely imperative. This is what leads to breakthroughs. And think, for example, of mRNA vaccines that have been developed actually as a consequence of fundamental bottom-up curiosity-driven research funded, by the way, by the ERC. So again, we need funds in those fundamental research areas in order to get closer to innovation in healthcare. We also need to have more funding for preventing the rise of new infectious diseases and drug development. This is something that I mentioned earlier about the clinical trials, quicker approval procedures, reduction of bureaucracy, and we should think a little bit more about prognostics, prevention, and personalized treatment to speed up research through transdisciplinarity. And now I want to give another example of how artificial intelligence can help in healthcare as well. This is also research from my institute, a colleague of mine who, by the way, a very nice example of.
Other questions? If not, no questions?
We have 50 minutes of a panel, so I think for PM.
Comme ça. My name is Ana van Berta Moral. I'm a professor in material science and physics working in the area of quantum. I'm an alumni of Polytechnique. When I think about Claudine, I have my eyes that become wet. She was so inspiring at all levels. She was inspiring to look up to, but also she was very close to the students. And it's a combination that is very rare to find. So still have to. I was very sad when she passed away. So I'm also the future president of EPFL from January 1st, and that's why I'm here today. So very inspiring presentation, many questions. So first, I will start by asking the other members of the panel to give reactions. And so I will start with Tatiana Markova, sorry. She's head of international relations of EMBL. She deals with the relations with the 30 member states, European partners, and also the global collaborations. And she's also an expert in science policy. So can you give us your first reactions to the presentation?
Sure, thank you very much, and thank you for the invitation. I'm clearly not Edith Hurt, who's the Director General of EMBL, who wanted to be here today and is truly interested in these topics that are very close to her heart. So thank you also on her behalf. Maybe a few words about EMBL before I start and give the remarks to this really nice talk. So EMBL is the European Molecular Biology Laboratory, which is an intergovernmental organization, a research-performing, Europe-based intergovernmental organization. We're 50 years old this year, and we have 5 missions. We're created with 5 missions, which I think are so relevant and just demonstrate that science and innovation has always had these big missions and challenges in mind, independent of the geopolitical situation. So we are there to develop, to innovate, and to perform excellent research. So we have many research groups that focus and drive thereafter the innovation that comes. We also deliver services and infrastructure to all the users, to the community of researchers, but also to industry. And this is, I think, an important note to make, because it seems that nowadays there's a little bit of a disconnect between what a true, mature infrastructure can do and deliver for society and for researchers. And there's potentially a division between technological components, research components, why we see that infrastructures such as EMBL or CERN or some of the others, we have always been an integrated ecosystem. And this is a model that Europe should cherish. So then we go on to the training, and I fully agree with what has been said so far. We have been there, and we are there to create also the next generation of scientists. And this is absolutely critical also in this AI era if we want to stay at the forefront. Then we do have a mission to innovate and to translate. And this is not and never has been a top-down mission. It has always come very much connected to the type of research that EMBL does, because researchers are fearless, but they're also opportunistic, and they want to take advantage of what they have and develop new techniques, new discoveries. We have 26 spin-offs connected to EMBL, which I think demonstrates that research absolutely seeds innovation and fuels it. And then also several Nobel Prizes, again, the latest one being for, in fact, done by a researcher, Jacques Dubouchet, who was at EMBL, who simply needed a technique in order to do his research. And this then gave rise to the cryo-EM technology, which we used to fight the pandemic, which helped us with the vaccine discovery and so on. And the last mission is to indeed act as the glue in Europe and to try and integrate, close gaps, and bring communities together. So molecular biology perhaps is understood or not understood in a very clear way, but molecules are the building blocks of life. So in order for us to have a healthy planet and healthy humans, we need to understand how life works. And this is where molecular biology and life sciences come in. So this is EMBL in a nutshell, and I have so many reactions to the talk and to everything that has been said. But maybe I wanted to start with one big message, which is fairly optimistic, I think. Europe is a leader in science. I think we should not be afraid to say this. We have, and looking at the frontiers of science, we are really leading. We were leading in the fields of physics, in the fields of life sciences, in the fields of astronomy, in so many fields we are leaders, and we need to appreciate this. Now, how we remain leaders is another question, and is a very topical question. But, and this is where I think somehow our mission and our goal as being in science or science policy is to deliver an important message. We think as EMBL that science should be codified as a political priority. And I think this is where perhaps thereafter industry can come with confidence. Because if science is deprioritized and if investment is not sustainable, a high-stake game that industry plays is very difficult to choose as a partner and to choose a scientific partner. So this is one of the biggest messages. And then, of course, building the trust in the industry or incorporating them in the scientific endeavor is something that is very important. So maybe I should stop here as the first reaction, and then I'm happy to react to many other things.
Thank you. I understand we all have many questions, so I understand the length of the reaction. Mohamed Sijelmassi, you are CTO of Socrasteria, which is a company that provides counsel, digital services and software. You're on the private side of the story. Tell us a bit about us and about reactions.
Yeah, first, I feel a bit alone here. So I'm surrounded by scientists. I was one, and I'm the only one from the industry. So I would like to just give you what the industry is expecting. First, I think that what we want is to bring the lab to the shop floor. It is important. You spoke about the connection, the inside connection, the continuous connection. If we want to keep industry here in Europe, we need to have a strong connection between what exists in the academy and how academy can serve the purpose of the industry. It's a bit our role to come to you and to say, this is what the industry is expecting. This is, because science, as you have said, we probably are the first, the best. Does it scale to the industry? I'm not sure. We are the best in research, but why are we the best in large companies and so on? So my message around this is, how do we all collectively move from this strong research, strong capability, strong vision, to something that we bring to our industry, our companies and so on. Second remark, I think it is very important. I think that we need a quantum leap in research today. And how it moves to the industry. If we continue to go slowly, then at a moment we will be lost. That's why pushing for budget is important. But pushing for budget has also to be supported by what kind of initiative can we deploy in a short, middle term in the industry. And probably this is something what is very difficult, is that we see that there are a lot of research, and there is a gap between those research and how they are translated in industry. So that's my second remark. And the last one, I think there is a need that we have talents coming from industry, going to the research, and vice versa. It's good that we don't stay in the labs and we don't stay in the industry. So this move, continuous move, not only teach us new things, but it also brings a vision of what the industry is expecting from the research. So those are 2 points.
So what you mean is mobility, not only among countries, but among professions and back and forth. I think I fully agree. Some countries put difficulties on this, particularly German. If you are a civil servant in Germany, you are not encouraged to stop being a civil servant. You lose your pension. So I think there's some things to do. You talked about ERC, and I think, well, you put some numbers. One thing that I was missing is that ERC put also the pioneering spirit on the table. Because it's not only research for fundamental research, it's something completely new, completely out of the box, and maybe that's why it fosters innovation, because the proposals have to be innovative. So do you want to add something to this? Is there some story that we can build upon this to tell about the politicians so that they embrace the idea? Because reivindications at the end, we can all go to strike, but it will not help much. We need to convince politicians maybe we need to put the seed in their heads and that they get themselves the idea. So what would be the story that one could do?
Well, I think it's absolutely crucial to understand that technology transfer cannot happen without fundamental research, because there has to be something to be transferred. So first we need to have fundamental research and results that then later on, and who knows in what frame in the future we're talking about, it might not be an immediate result, it might be decades later that innovation happens thanks to this fundamental research. And here I would again like to stress the importance of curiosity-driven, unconstrained researcher's mind who has the freedom to explore. And this is, I think, what ERC does the best, is to allow this kind of freedom. And once we have enough mass in research in Europe, innovation will follow. And that is just a very natural consequence of having a very healthy and progressive, so to speak, scientific environment.
And what would be the tools you would want to make this transition possible? We need the tools, huh?
To make the transition to technology. Well, ERC actually has a proof of concept scheme, right?
It's a small help, but it's not
right.
sufficient.
But there are also other schemes like the Pathfinder project, for example, schema that allows still to explore low TLR levels that would eventually lead to innovation. So again, funding and people. I mean, these are the two key ingredients, and infrastructure, which requires also funding, of course.
We were talking about acceleration, and here we really have a difference in speed between Europe and the rest of the world, or the rest of the leading countries. Any words on how to accelerate things?
I mean, maybe going back exactly to what we discussed, but also giving one example, because we of course keep talking about how inviting the US environment is and so on, but going back to the basics and to maybe EMBL, Google DeepMind chose EMBL, a European-based organization, to develop AlphaFold. And this is for a reason, and I think we need to keep in mind all these things. And they're based not only on the fact that we have excellence in research, that we have a reputation, we're trusted in delivering state-of-the-art, pioneering research, but also because Europe has been wise enough, and this is particularly true, I think, for the biological sciences, since Darwin, in fact, but wise enough to collect large-scale data meticulously. And this is what we need in order to enable the AI revolution. And Europe is in an excellent position to do this, because in fact, there are three things that we now think will accelerate AI or the uptake, and this is good, sustainable, computable data, big data. This is what we have. Europe has this more than anything else. I mean, the EMBO EBI is the world's biggest holder of large biological data. So we have all, and this is true for other fields. Then it's the talent that absolutely needs to be trained, and talent that understands not only how to use data in AI, but also how to interact with industry and flow to and fro. And then it's the compute, obviously, the big power, which I think also, supercomputers are not scarce. So all of these things bring this acceleration and also become quite attractive, in fact, even for US companies, because this environment that we have of these infrastructures, or if you wish, big research performance, does not exist in the US. This is a truly unique European feature. And these are the features that I think when we talk about European competitiveness, we need to enhance. They clearly work, they bring industry to Europe, and then help Europe be at the forefront and really being seen as a desired partner and also as a leader in these fields.
Thank you. So seeing as we have these flagships of fundamental science that are really an example, that are unique, and so this brings the industry from outside here. I get this.
In Benia, it's the technology exists, but it's our role to push our customer to explain how to deploy this kind of thing. Now there is one point on AI, and I think it's more it's also valid for the society in general. It is scaring. It is scaring for a lot of people. It is scaring for CEOs, it is scaring for people around them. So what is missing in research is how do we check the accuracy? How do we make a model that is something that we can trust? Things that, for me, there is still large room for research, and that will be part of the adoption. And if we don't have AI everywhere, in automotive, in aeronautics, whatever, then we will have a huge problem in our industry. So what we can expect from all people that are in this scope is that to help us to build systems that are trusted, that we can trust. How do we trust this kind of system? What kind of tools we can use? And if we don't have this, you'll have not only from the, I would say, the society that will reject this, but also we will have people that will want to put them in their systems. And that will be a pity. So we will like award, a loan, whatever, scoring, a non-biased scoring, something that is easy, is something that you can implement everywhere. So there are a lot of small things that are increasing productivity, helping some people to innovate, that are interesting. And the last point that I really want to come back on your, according to what you have said, AI is also an opener for creativity. When we do software engineering, usually, but we are a bit lazy, we always do the same thing. When you have something that provides you with 10 different things, then you just play with it. And at the end, maybe you will not choose 9 out of those 10, maybe you will invent a new one. So, training people and making them aware that it's not a blocker, it's also a booster for creativity, as far as you use it. Not as a truth, as a tool. So that's you.
I'm curious, who provides the training? Is it the company itself, another company, or is there a partnership with academia?
Well, so first, we have multiple kind of training. We have some, I would say, high-level training that we do with academia. So this is mainly dedicated to people that are really bad in this. There are training that are done internally for all our managers, including the chairman. And there are training that are done by industry. Because, for instance, how AI is applicable in aeronautics, how AI is applicable in public sector. So those things are a bit specialized. And also that's it.
Thank you. We were talking also about the loss of human capital in academia, which is fitting then also discontinuing. Do you have some words to say about it?
Well, I think from what I hear a lot from young generations now with whom I work in my team and across other teams, the issue is that young people do not see good career perspectives and stability in academia. So the academic environment and the careers for young postdocs, for example, are very short-lived, very often require, which I think mobility is very good, but for those who not necessarily want to embark on mobility, also because of family reasons,
there needs to be also some level of stability guaranteed for young researchers who need this in their lives, and that certainly is where I think we're losing talent to industry, because that's where stability, according to the young generation, comes better.
This may happen at the age of the PhD, right? But we're also talking about people that are far from the PhD and already thinking about, oh, science is not for me, so what are we doing wrong? What can we change?
For those who are not, you mean who realize that science is not for them and they would like to leave science?
Or they don't think about a possible career in science, because if we don't even try, then we'll lose a lot of talent.
Right, but I think it's not a necessarily bad thing if at some point, you know, a young researcher and a little bit more senior than a PhD student realizes that they would actually prefer to work in industry. And actually this is where, going back to the point of the flow back and forth, is actually very, very beneficial. So it's I would see it as a good point.
I think we have a question already.
Thank you very much. Do you have one question, please?
Very briefly, thank you very much for the discussion and for your introduction. I have, say, 2 observations or questions. You approach in a very interesting way the European Research Council, which was a creation of Europe some 15 years ago after many years of the discussion. I will definitely note that what differentiates the European Research Council today in the European way, and Jean-Pierre can confirm and argue this, is the independence of the European Research Council, which in some way has been followed by the European Innovation Council. But if we look, are the only organizations which are full independent. Certainly member states, through the European Council and the Commission, defines the budget. But then the distribution of the budget is made by an independent Science and Technology Council. And this lesson, in my view, should help us reflecting in the remaining of the framework program and of the way we are essentially throughout Europe, and I had that for many years, member states, large and small, look at European funding just as a way to distribute funding upon member states. And say the unique feature of the RC, through the Independence Council, in my view, should be the main point of the discussion. My second point is, we all know that we have not attained the 3% target in terms of GDP in 2020, and now we have a new target for 2030, and only 4 countries have been able to achieve the 3% target. The question, though, is how far can we do that together with the current gap we have through the ECOFIN and the European finance system to prevent public debt. And again, I will argue that, and I was in that place for many years, it is very easy to get consensus among every single research community or research ministers of the 3%. The difficulty is to get the Minister of Finance into the discussion. And when you go deeper into the discussion, you need to understand that you can only do that either increasing the number of researchers, but also the salary, and this enters in labor and fiscal issues. For instance, if you compare 2 countries that got there, Germany, Austria, or Belgium, together with countries that have not get there, for instance, Slovenia and Portugal, all of them have now a similar concentration of researchers, about 11 researchers per 1,000 active people, which has been increasing enormously. The point is that the labor and fiscal issues, which are national obligations, are completely different across these countries. And this brings deep discussion about labor and fiscal disparities in Europe, without which we will never get the 3% again.
Any reactions?
Thank you. One reaction after we start. Thanks. Reaction in the public. Guillaume Clossat.
Sorry, I have 3 quick questions. One is about EPFL. EPFL is, and Swiss is a model for the world. And I'd like to know which takeaways you would draw for the EU with regard to the Swiss model, which is one. Second question, AI. I go on thinking that if we have the same strategy pushing AI and data, we are only going to be a battlefield for the US and China and India. I mean, we are producing data for American company because we are not able to compute the data. We are producing talent for American company, and when the talent are not ready to come to the US, the company are developing based in Europe. But it's not serving at all European interest. So you can say whatever you want, but it's a losing strategy. And we are killing ourselves, and we say we have AI, we may say, we are the only one without platform. And we can say it's too late, but even the Emirati, they are developing a strategy using American platforms. The Taiwan, they are developing, we are the only one not developing one. Why? And what could we do? Because otherwise we can do whatever we want with regard to AI. We are losing. And last point, if we spoke about continuum, but at the end of the day, continuum is a matter of private and public procurement, so that fundamental research can develop industrial projects. And it's a way to avoid public funding for research, because if we have the public or private procurement, this can help research funding. So how could we develop that at multinational level? So these are my 3 questions.
Could I maybe just have one quick reaction on the point about AI? I'm sure there's other perspectives, but just from our view, because I mentioned also AlphaFold, right, which is a revolution in structural biology and biology and how we understand life altogether, which was done in Google DeepMind, based on the data EMBO EBI. I just want to stress, sometimes we tend to forget a little bit. So the EMBO EBI is the world's biggest, Europe, however, owned based resource for molecular data. The data that the EBI has been storing, the data on which AlphaFold is built, also includes Chinese data, US data, Japanese data, all of this data deposited in a European-based resource, after which many ERC grantees are using this data, which is not just European data, right? This is data from all over the world in order to enable European research. So I would argue that it's not just black and white in many of these cases, and European research has benefited a lot, also because it has these infrastructures that can act as the pole of attraction for this type of data, and then developing the tools or developing some of the spin-offs or developing some of the companies. So I just wanted to remind us that indeed, and this goes to international cooperation, how to handle it in a conscientious way, right? And the freedom of scientific research. So I just wanted to stress that we do base a lot of what we do here in terms of European research also on this type of data and collections.
Thank you very much. Now we'll stop and we make an appointment in 30 minutes, please, for the coffee break.
And we can